Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. I had planned to release a video on how the late Tupac Shakur was a simp and a beta male. However, I have decided not to make that video public because we have some black folks who just aren't ready to have that conversation regarding the late Tupac Shakur. And I don't want the drama that I had to deal with in 2019 as related to the passports coming to my life again. So that's the core reason why I have decided not to discuss that subject. Now, when it comes down to this small emotional minority of black folks, they just are not ready to have a critical discussion about the late Tupac Shakur. And because they're not ready to have a critical conversation about the late Tupac Shakur that objectively examines his life, I cannot make that video where we discuss how your Tupac Shakur is basically the flip side of the coin of Will Smith. Now, in Will Smith's own new book that has come out, he talked about how his wife Jada Pinkett was always fixated on Tupac Shakur. And that's really because your Tupac Shakur basically was the jerk to Will Smith's nice guy, and both of these guys were two sides of the exact same coin. And this is something many black people, because they deify entertainers, don't want to have a discussion about. And they don't want to sit here and have that discussion because they have put these celebrities on a pedestal, and because they've put these celebrities on a pedestal, they get caught up in their feelings about this celebrity and don't want to look objectively at them as people. And if you look objectively at your Tupac Shakur, he was the product of a single mother household, and he was raised with a gynocentric view of women. And he had this gynocentric view of women back when he was in that Pennsylvania Performing Arts School with Jada Pinkett Smith, and he was basically your square dude. And this was shown to us when in his early appearances on shows like A Different World, and we only got to see him play the thug in movies where he played Bishop in Juice. But his transformation into this so-called thug was something that was done by white men in Madison Avenue and Hollywood, but your black folks, they're not ready to have that discussion, and they're not ready to have that conversation because, again, they're caught up in their feelings about this late dead man who was passed on for over 25 years. So they're not ready to have a discussion about how thug life was basically a social construct of white men from Madison Avenue and Hollywood, and not something that came from Tupac himself. No, your Tupac was basically a square, nice guy, and he wanted to go out here and change his image so that he could try to attract women, because in his own words, he said that he was the nice guy, just like Will Smith was, and he wasn't getting anywhere with women. And guys changing themselves for women was something I said was a mistake in my own book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, and that guys who change themselves to try to get the attention of women oftentimes wind up attracting nothing but predators who wind up taking advantage of them. Now, your Tupac changed himself into this jerk, and what happened was, as he started becoming more popular in the rap game, Madison Avenue and Hollywood transformed this image of a thug into the mainstream so that they could go out here, not to go out here and promote Tupac as a star, but to socially engineer an idea in young black children's minds about a so-called thug life and keeping it real. And this was all done by your whites in the mainstream media, because what they wanted to do was undo the hard work of men like Bill Cosby, who had started getting young black children to start thinking about going to college as they watched shows like A Different World. So what the white supremacists wanted to do was create this super-sized caricature of a brute and create a mythology around him, and use this caricature to go out here and promote the ideals of thug life to young black children. And what they wanted to do was have this pitchman promote the ideas of being so-called real, but the irony is that the guy who was out here promoting the so-called thug life wasn't real. He was basically a square, nice guy from a single mother household who basically just wanted to get the attention of girls and impress them. But you can't have that conversation with most of your black Americans out here, because they get emotional and they are just so wedded to the narratives around the mythology that you cannot sit down and have a good, open, objective, critical conversation, even though facts are coming out in things like your Will Smith's new book and Jada Pinkett making statements about the late Tupac Shakur that both are consistent in frame and theme and consistently present you with the point that this whole concept of thug life was completely fake and made up by white folks in Madison Avenue and Hollywood. And it was one of the reasons why your Will Smith was having problems with his marriage, because Jada had bought into the false concept of thug life, and she wanted to get with this false thug image of Tupac, because when Tupac was the square guy, she didn't really want anything to do with him. But as he gained success as the thug, she wanted him. But when he passed away in '96 or so, that's when she decided to settle for Will Smith. Again, facts corroborated with evidence, but you can't explain that to black folks because they are in their feelings and want to argue over their feelings over how this celebrity made them feel and the memories they have of that celebrity. So you cannot go out here and have that discussion. And I'm not going to sit here and argue and go back and forth with people over a man who has been dead for over 25 years, or try to educate these people about how Hollywood goes out here and creates these kinds of images and this kind of rhetoric, and it's all about making it where you are eliminated as competition to their white sons and their white daughters, because most black folks are just not ready to have that conversation about this manufactured thug or the manufacturing process that created this thug that was Tupac Shakur and created the whole concept of thug life. And they're not ready to have that conversation about how it was rich whites who created this image of Tupac Shakur, not guys like your Suge Knight. No, it was white media executives who created this image, white media executives that promoted this image, because the only way these type of images can get through is with the approval of white American executives, and that's the only way you can get this type of media distributed. But again, your black folks are not ready to have that conversation, so I'm not going to put up that video and deal with that kind of drama, and I'm just going to charge that type of video to the game and move on and come up with a different topic to discuss. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today.